Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Toastmaster, honored guests, when I gave my first evaluation at Toastmasters, it wasn't great. I used the sandwich method, which is give a nice, positive piece of feedback, then a negative, meaty, sort of constructive piece of criticism, and then another thing to soften the blow. The idea is that you have this meaty sort of center, and then you're softening it with these two doughy pieces of bread on the outside. Because it wasn't great, I did some research and looked around to try to find a better way to give the sandwich evaluation method. And someone online had said, you know, the problem with the sandwich method is that nobody listens to the first piece of feedback. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I thought, that's interesting. Maybe I should do a 1-2 punch, like bad news, good news. And because I'm Polish, I called it the open-faced sandwich evaluation method. It was funny, but it wasn't any more effective than the sandwich method. And then I went to this workshop by Mike Daly and Dennis Dawson at Toastmasters International, which is free for everyone here to attend. And I learned about the hamburger, is what they call it, the hamburger method. I've tried this in many different places. I tried it here at this Toastmasters Club. I was a guest and I had to step in as an evaluator at another Toastmasters Club. I've tried it at work, I tried it at home. And in every case, the response has been immediate, positive, effective results. I'm very excited and I'm excited to share it with you. But before I tell you all about this magical, wonderful new way of giving evaluations, you're probably wondering what the turkey is. I realized a couple weeks ago, even though I was already doing the hamburger method in Toastmasters, that at work, my coworker would say, hey, I know you're really busy and you have to go to this meeting over here, but could you come over here and give me some feedback on my project? And in my haste, I would just machine gun fire at her all this negative stuff. Fix this, fix that, the other thing, and give that all to her. And it was a no-carb, high-protein turkey method of evaluating. It was awful because the person didn't know which thing to focus on in terms of what to change, how to prioritize. There was nothing that she was proud of in what I gave her in terms of positive things, so she was demoralized. And most of the time we said, you know what, you obviously know this better than I do and I'm doing it wrong, why don't you do it? Which is not what I wanted. So I started doing the hamburger method. And I decided to try this, and immediately she said, can you do that from now on? That was awesome. I don't know what you were doing before, but can you from now on give me feedback on anything that I show you in this way? So I'm a convert. So what is this hamburger method? All right. Let's pretend I'm giving an evaluation to Dennis. Now, what I would do is I get a blank sheet of paper, and if it's in Toastmasters, I use a clipboard, and I get a pencil. And then I draw a line down the middle, and I write plus and minus, and then I write the letters S, H, and F for see, hear, and feel. And then I write the word theme at the bottom. I do this before the speech has started, so I have it. And honestly, I have done this on a piece of junk mail on the back of an envelope when my wife had asked me for some feedback. You don't need any fancy equipment. It works really well no matter what. Just, this is the template. Then, during Dennis's speech, I would be frantically trying to watch and write in shorthand in the pluses for the positive things and the negatives for the things that I thought that person could do better. After the speech is done, I go through and I would circle the top three positive commendations, and then one, and only one, negative thing that person could do better for that particular speech to make it better the next time they give that speech. And I would circle them. And then I would look through the things that I circled, and then I would think, what is a theme? Not for Dennis's speech, but for my evaluation speech that I'm about to give. And I write that down. And then I flip the page over. And then I number it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I work my way back up, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. First I write the summation, I write it out, and then I transfer over the number 2, the number 3, the number 1, and the number 1 things, right? Going backwards, it would be the number 1 commendation, the number 1 recommendation to do better, then the number 2 and the number 3 commendations, and then I write out the intro, and then I have my speech. And then when I stand up and I give my speech, and you guys are all along for the ride, I don't actually care to pay much attention to you. This is about Dennis. And so I tell him, in words that the people who presented this, their names are Mike Daly and Dennis Dawson, which I've mentioned here. They said, make sure that you use I language. Or in another way, you want to use first-person subjective language when you're talking to a person. I heard this. I saw this. I felt like this part could have been, it was a little confusing. I felt maybe it could have been better. What you do not want to do is use absolutes, to use modal verbs, to say, you should do this. People always do this. Why didn't you? Toastmasters must do this. You don't want to talk in terms of unbounded absolutes in that terms. And another thing, if Dennis stands up and gives the most amazing speech and he's always right on point, what you don't want to do is say, oh my God, that was the best speech ever. I can't think of anything. Every speech you do is so amazing. I just love hearing you speak. Bravo, bravo. I just can't think of anything to say. There's nothing negative to say. Can I have your autograph after the meeting? That is not helpful to anybody. You should be able to find one thing to help that person improve. And likewise, if it's an icebreaker, don't soften the blow. Wow, that was an icebreaker? That's the first time you ever spoke? I can't think of anything. Just keep doing what you're doing. Good job. What Mike and Dennis said is whitewashed evaluations make boring, confident speakers. None of us here want to sit through listening to boring, confident speakers that get more boring and more confident every time that they hear an evaluation that's whitewashed. Let me leave you with this. This is me distilling down what I felt were the most important parts of this presentation that went over an hour into under 10 minutes. If you think about it, this meeting that we have here, we spend a lot of time giving feedback, receiving feedback, listening to other people give and receive feedback, then giving feedback about the feedback that we just heard someone give and receive. We spend a lot of time working on it. Because when we leave this meeting and go elsewhere, we may not be spending as much time as we do here in giving feedback, but when we do, it's really important to receive it and to give it. It's the difference between a good relationship and a bad relationship. Given how much it affects your life, I think that you should try it. Now, I'm not saying you should and people always and you must do this, because this is just what I've seen and heard and felt when I've tried to put this into practice. So please, just try it. Don't take my word for it. And then let me know what you see, what you hear, and what you feel when you put this into practice. And email me.